I love this car and I've been defending it for a long time on this channel, but it definitely has some issues. So let's go ahead and start with this thing right here. This is the Carfax report, and it gave me an idea of some of the issues I was going to encounter, whether it was immediately right when I got it or in the long term. And yes, I spent pretty much my life savings on this car, even though I was aware of this Carfax report. So first things first, the most notable thing was a pretty serious lack of service history. I don't know if the oil was changed for a span of 30,000 miles. I have no idea what was fixed or what wasn't. No idea who took care of it or if anybody even did. But right before I did buy it, it had some work done. It just didn't specify what was done to it. All right, the ground is like 5,000 degrees, so I'm gonna sit like this if this is even sitting. Now, next up on this Carfax report, I saw that there were like 5 previous owners, and I thought, that can't be good. And the previous 1 to 2 owners literally got rid of the car the second that they bought it. And so once I already paid for it, I started to lose sleep over that. Then after I gave them all of my money that I had, I said, can I please see the inspection report that the guys that you work with did? And after some convincing, they finally gave it to me. And that's where I discovered that the salesperson I bought this car from completely lied about some stuff. Now let's take a look at this inspection report, which by the way, does not even cover all of the issues. So the first thing on there is a leaky valve cover gasket oil leak. And let's have a running total of repair costs throughout this video. To repair the valve cover gasket is going to be $2,000. And by the way, that's indie shop prices, not dealership prices. Dealership prices, we're looking more like $4,000 or $5,000, but we'll go a little bit more conservative on these numbers. Now, if you keep scrolling on this inspection report, the next thing you're going to see is a catalytic converter efficiency code. Called into the inspection place and said, hey, what is this about? There's not even any notes on it. And they said, oh, you know, we're not sure. Further inspection is going to be required. But they were like, don't worry about it. It was probably just the wrong fuel type. So I guess that's what we'll go with for now. But for a new catalytic converter on this car, plus installation, it's going to be around $2,000. Now, next up, we have the suspension. And I figured something was a little bit fishy about this because look at the way that they worded this. Ball joints appear to be intact and not broken. That's the definition of a visual inspection without literally any testing. And so we'll talk about this when we actually go drive this car and talk about more of the issues, but the suspension definitely is not in the best shape. And as you keep going on this inspection report, everything appears to be pretty good. And I mean, for the most part it is. But then as you scroll to the bottom, you get motor mounts dried and may need to be replaced if concerned with vibrations. The vibrations I get at idle are actually not like severely concerning. You can definitely feel it, but motor mounts on this thing, the mounts themselves are not that expensive, but it's again, the labor where they get you. That's a couple $1,000s as well. Now, after 2 weeks of waiting for this car to get delivered to me, on the very first day I drove it, I immediately realized that both the salesperson and the inspection place I called to ask more questions about this car, well, they were both a little bit optimistic on the condition of the car, and I was definitely lied to about some things several times. Let's pop the hood. Now, the good news is the exterior quality, like the paint and all of that, is in almost perfect condition. We do already know that under here, there's a $2,000 valve cover gasket oil leak waiting to be fixed. And by the way, the parts to fix the valve cover gasket oil leak is around $100. The labor is what's $1,900. Not surprising that they would do this to somebody with a Maserati. Because at the end of the day, it is an exotic car, okay? The amount of people that say it's not, well, I'm sorry, insurance, maintenance, and pretty much everything points to this being an exotic car. So it has its pros and its cons. So the second thing under here is really not a huge deal. It just says that the air filter box is not secured properly on the inspection report. But this third thing very well could be an absolute bankruptcy claim for me. There is a pretty loud whine whenever I accelerate. Take a listen. Now, when I first got the car, me and my brother popped the hood and tried to listen to where that was coming from. It's either going to be the belt or the alternator. I'm thinking alternator. However, I'm not running into any battery issues. But if it's the alternator, the one place I did call to see how much it would cost for parts and labor to fix the alternator, They said $4,800. I am assuming that an indie shop could maybe repair the alternator and probably do it for like $1,500 to $2,000. So we'll just use the $2,000 price tag instead of $4,800 because I don't want to look at that number. Now, the good news is under there, I don't really see or hear or notice any other issues, and the inspection report says the same thing as well. There is a little bit of an inconsistent RPM idle. It'll jump and drop maybe 50 to 100 RPM sometimes. And one of you guys on my live stream said could be spark plugs, but you know, that's not really a concerning issue as of right now, and so I won't really include that in this video. But the spark plugs are like $80 per. Now, this repair number is already starting to grow a little bit too big, but unfortunately we got more to cover. So let's hit a POV and talk about the rest. All right, you guys, we got the GoPro on and the bank account gone. Let's hop in this thing and continue the discussion of the issues that this car does have. On the interior, by the way, right off the bat, we got no access to the glove box. When I first got it, I went to pull it down and open the glove box to see if like the title, the stuff was in there, but I pushed it down and it just fell to the ground, and I have not fixed that. This fuse thing does not work. I literally bought something to play music on, and you know, the thing that actually connects to your phone's Bluetooth. But I plugged it in and, well, it didn't work. So this fuse is broken. As for this carbon fiber strip, it's starting to come a little bit loose on the right-hand side over there. I'm not really going to sit here and complain about that, though. I've always wondered if this thing is actually real or if they put this there just to make it look like it has the carbon package. This thing is here, though. I don't know, very confusing. But that's not really going to be super expensive stuff. Let's take a listen to the startup. We have had two instances where we encountered a little bit of electrical issues. On the live stream, twice, we started the car up and then the gauge cluster didn't work, and one other time it did work and it popped up a bunch of warning lights saying suspension failure and all this stuff. No. Not on the live stream, bro. What was that? No! Bro, nah, wait. That can't be right. There's absolutely no way, bro. That has to be some electrical thing. There's no shot that all happens at once. All right, well, I don't want to ever turn this thing back on again, but we will. I'm gonna give it like 30 seconds. But the times where it does work, nothing seems to be off. And by the way, that problem was fixed by just restarting the car. So I would not consider that an issue. Anyway, let's go in and get driving real quick. Of course, we're going to put the seatbelt on. Now, as for the convertible, I've been using it multiple times a day, every day since I got this thing, and I've had no issues with the convertible. We got that lovely brake squeal, which when I replace the brake pads, there's this stuff I can put on them to hopefully prevent that from squealing like that, but that is not the best thing to listen to. Engine's warm. Let's do it. That is why you buy a Maserati GranTurismo. It makes all of the problems that the car is experiencing pretty much just non-existent, because that's all you need to listen to. But anyway, to continue the discussion, I hinted at the fact that there may be a suspension issue with this car, and yes, there is. It's very obvious that there is. Every time I go over a bump, it's got to be, you know, a slightly above average bump, like not just like typical road stuff, but any tiny pothole or any, it's hard to describe, but just, you know, a slightly above average bump, I get this strong, like grinding vibration throughout the car. And that tells me there is definitely an issue. I'm assuming it's going to be the right control arm bushing, because on the left-hand side, it is nowhere near as bad as on the right-hand side, but both are definitely struggling a little bit. Also, whenever I go over uneven surface at a slow speed, there's a good amount of creaking coming from the rear underneath the car. I have no idea what that is or what that could be. Hasn't really caused any major concerns, but it's definitely something I'm you know, if it gets worse over time, I'm gonna have to take it in and kind of see what the issue is there. By the way, the suspension, that's going to be around, from what I've read on forums, about a $3,500 job. Each side, by the way. So left and right, that's going to be $7,000. And that's more affordable, on the affordable side, if you go with an indie shop. So, so far to my knowledge, the transmission works fantastic. You can tell it takes a little while to get warmed up, but once it warms up, I don't. Oh, that's a. Is that an NSX? The old NSX, the yellow car, looks very nice. And then, you know, like this thing, there's no whatever you would call it, handle for that. But AC works well, convertible top works well, exhaust note sounds phenomenal. The power delivery is as smooth as it should be. I do have to replace the brake pads. I already have the parts lined up on Amazon for that. It's going to be around a $200 job. I'm definitely going to do that myself. But all in all, we're looking at around 10 to 15 to somewhere between like probably $10,000 to $15,000 in deferred repairs. And for the fun of not only my bank account, but also this journey, if I'm being honest with you guys, I'm not fixing something that's not broken. So I'm gonna keep driving this thing. I don't care. Now, of course, I'm gonna do like the oil change and stuff like that. But if I can go over minor like regular road wear, like we're on right now, this is pretty smooth. But the small inconsistencies, I don't feel any grinding or anything going on right now. I'm not gonna fix it yet. So just beware of that. I'm gonna keep driving this thing until I get stranded and I'm forced to fix it. Nice little C7 right there, top down as well. That's my plan, guys. I know we have over 10K in repairs waiting to happen, but nothing nothing makes this car unsafe to drive yet. If anything, the things I see coming very soon is going to be the valve cover gasket and the suspension, and possibly the alternator. Well, that right there is already $10,000. So, yeah, we'll see what happens in the future, but that's where I'm at with this car, and that's kind of what I plan to do. If you guys have any advice for me, I could honestly use it. Normally, I'm the one giving the advice for things, but yeah, I'd appreciate any tips that you guys have, especially if you're GranTurismo owners. But just casually driving it like this, I have no complaints. It's very comfortable, very smooth, good power delivery, good sound. So that's where we're at. I appreciate you guys for following this journey. We'll see how it continues. So far, I'm loving it, but I'm sure that answer may change in a few months. We'll see what's up. We just hit 42,000 miles as well. Love you guys, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.